Thank you. Before I open the hearing for the Barnstable Conservation Commission, I would like to ask Angela to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Tangney, here. Sampu.
Here.
Lee.
Present.
Hearn.
Present.
Foster.
Present.
Abedili.
Present.
Administrator Darcy Carley.
Present.
And staff member Kevin Kavanaugh.
Present.
Anybody
And
else?
Ed is here too.
Okay, Jeanette.
Ed is present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Everybody's here.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, October the 29th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. for the applications of Boston Gas Company, Town of Barnstable, DPW, Joanne Wilson, Eleanor Frechette, Jason Stone, Charles E. Crowley. The hearing is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending email requests to Darcy Curley at 230 South Street, Hyannis. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. In accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, please let the chair know if anyone is recording this meeting. Hearing none. This evening's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda next to each application is the amount owed to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisement. Please send your checks to the Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participations. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed by the Governor on March 29, 2023, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1. The hearing will be televised via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via the Town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. 2. The real-time public comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom link 861-0124-9542 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. 3rd, the public can also email their comments to darcy.curley@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. For your information, under the continuance tonight, the first continuance for the U.S. Coast Guard has requested for a second continuance to November the 12th without testimony. The second continuance for Mark Casper, CB Enterprises, LLC, has requested to withdraw the applications without prejudice. Tonight, we have 4 RDA. The first one is Boston Gas Company. Segment of the gas main will be installed within the existing roadway and along the adjacent shoulder. The proposed activity involving excavation of a 3-foot wide by 4-foot deep trench, which will be backfilled upon completions at portions of the Lakeview Drive and Pleasant Pine Avenue. Is Nate with us?
I am here. Let me turn my camera on.
Yep, welcome.
All right, thank you. So this is my first time. May I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, first time from the Barnstable Commission. So nice to see everybody virtually. I'm looking out the window. It is pitch black at 6:30. I'm a little bit in shock, so apologize. But yeah, for the record, Nate Gushgarian with LEC Environmental presenting on behalf of the applicant. In this case, the applicant is National Grid. This is a pretty straightforward project. It is a gas main installation. If it is all right with you, can I share my screen?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you. Okay, let me know if you can see our locus map with the footprint in red. Okay, so this is our gas main footprint. This is a new portion of installation that is being essentially installed between 2 existing gas mains, which start here and extend to the west, and start here and extend to the south. We've got about 75 feet on Lakeview Avenue, which extends about 7 feet west of the Cranberry Bog and then about 175 feet in Pleasant Pines Avenue. So the excavation itself is typically about 3 feet wide by 4 feet deep. The good news about this is that they are 95% of the time backfilled at the end of the day. That's pretty much protocol. And the 3 to 5% chance in which it is not backfilled, they use metal plates to cover the excavations, and the stockpile is covered. In terms of natural resources or what protected wetland resources on or within 100 feet of our project footprint, we obviously have this cranberry bog to the east. And that is when erosion control becomes very important. And National Grid typically uses silt sock, often backed by silt fence in this situation. So again, this is installation of a new main in between two existing mains, and this is to basically lessen the sequestering effect of not having these gas networks connected, which increases the potential to providing gas service to adjacent residences. So that's really the gist of the project. If you have any questions, happy to take them.
Thank you, Nate.
You're
Any
welcome.
question from the commissioner? No one? I think it's pretty straightforward for the utility installations.
Yeah, this is easy.
Yeah. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None? Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Tangney, I, Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time,
Good night.
everybody.
Yep.
Right.
The second RDA is Town of Barnstable, DBW, proposed soil borings located within the watershed of Hyannis in Harbor, adjacent to 180 Ocean Street, 135 South Street, and 190 Pleasant Street, as shown in the Assessors Map 326, parcel 068061 and 146. Jeremy?
Yeah, hi, Mr. Chairman. I am here. Jeremy Packard on behalf of both Infrastructure and Environment. But Murad Washington from our office is here today, and he is going to be leading the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
Moment, just looking for the, I believe this here. Okay. Not sure if everyone can see my screen right now.
Yeah, we see your screen.
All right, thank you. Good evening. My name is Rod Washington, project engineer at Foth Infrastructure and Environment, and I am here on behalf of the town of Barnstable. Foth is proposing, a minimum of 9 primary soil borings with additional six secondary locations, if necessary, based off of the results from the 9 primary soil boring locations. All 15 soil boring locations are shown here, with the larger red dots being the primary locations, as well as the smaller dots being the secondary locations. Locations are adjacent to Bismore Park, Gateway Marina, as well as the offloading area at the end of Pleasant Street here. The purpose of these water-based soil borings is to determine the existing geographical properties to aid in the design of reconfiguring pile-supported structures within the Inner Harbor. The work will include mobilization of a small work barge that is approximately 16 by 18 feet, and this barge is actually set up specifically for these soil borings. As far as the process of determining the geotechnical properties, a standard penetration test will be conducted to a minimum depth of 50 feet and a maximum depth of 70 feet in certain locations. A 140-pound SBT hammer will be used for the penetration test in order to advance a 2-inch sampling tube within a 4-inch pipe casing at a 5-foot interval in order to collect an undisturbed soil sample. The engineer on site from Foth will conduct a soil classification test on the sediment sample to determine the physical characterizations, the physical characteristics of the sample. The 4-inch casing will be driven. No jetting is proposed as part of the work here. All impacts will be contained within the pipe casing as it is driven. In the scenario of a spill kit will be on hand, and the contractor will be able to administer it in order to handle that situation as fast as possible. Most of the locations shown here are well over 100 feet away from all shellfish suitability areas, as well as other resource areas other than land under ocean. The only area that is under that 100-foot measurement would be this area here that is approximately 80 to 90 feet away from shellfish suitability area, but I still think we are pretty good distance away. FOTH is anticipating that the proposed work will take around 1 day per soil boring location, which would put us at around 2 weeks to complete all primary soil borings. FOTH is already working pretty close with the town and the harbor master, so we'll be able to give the town a pretty good heads up when the contractor plans on mobilizing this winter. FOTH is also looking for a negative determination tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioner? None. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Tangney, I, Abadili,
Aye.
and Foster.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. The third RDA is Joanne Wilson. Replace existing fill metal 550-gallon tight tank with 1,000-gallon plastic tight tank in same locations as existing at 12 Point Street, Centerville, as shown on the assessors map 230, parcel 088. And this is Roger here?
No, Roger is not here. I am Joanne Wilson. Good evening, Commission.
Good evening. Go ahead. Do you want to talk about your project?
Yes, so this is a failing 550-gallon metal tank that was rusted. The top has fallen into the bottom. There was water between, I'd say, a couple inches deep in the bottom of the rusted tank that looked to be from eye view at the same level as Melody Pond, which was approximately 70 feet to the rear of the property. So we propose to, since the access to the property is an 8-foot section in this part over here on the side of the garage, to the left of the garage, is only 8 feet to get through there. So we're limited with the amount of construction vehicles that could get back there to replace that. The only thing we could come up with was a 1,000-gallon poly tank put in that same area, but going with the length of the house rather than out towards the pond. We're prepared with silt socks and silt fence. Also, I'm prepared to place a dewatering pit if necessary. I have contracted with Bortolotti Construction out of Marston Mills. I've been speaking with Paul Willard over there, and they're contracted to do the installation.
On the sketch that we saw on the screen,
Yes, sir.
who prepared it is typically we require an engineering stamp, but I understand your situations that trying to get an engineering stamp would be very difficult for a sketch plans. Who prepared that sketch for you?
I did, sir.
You did it yourself? Pretty
Yes,
good.
I'm also a Title V inspector. So, and my husband and I do installations ourselves. So I have about 6 years experience, and I have a couple engineer friends that I also work with who have taught me quite a bit over the years. And also the conservation staff, Darcy and Kim, have been very forthcoming with information on how to be prepared for this meeting tonight. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you. I think, well, I can only speak for myself, but I think, in this case, I think I can waive that engineering stamp on this particular RDI one. So any question from the commissioner? None?
Yeah, Tom.
Pete?
So yeah, I would concur with your decision to waive what is normally expected, in part because this is a winning situation, pretty straightforward. Thanks for that input, Tom.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners?
I have just one comment, and that is if you like it, Tom, I'm good with it.
Agree.
Well, I mean, you know, it's a failed tight tank that need to be replaced. It's a better environment to the pond. So it need to be done. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None? Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Sampu,
Aye.
Tangney, aye. Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
and Lee.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Commission.
Hi, Joanne. With
Yes.
this approval, you should go to the Board of Health and apply for the permit.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And I'll make sure I get that $22 into that I have to bring down. I'll do that tomorrow as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next RDA is Illinois Freshettes to replace landscape wall along the lower driveway at 492 Elliott Road, Centerville, as shown on the Assessors Maps 227 Parcel 122. John?
Good evening, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting. Work on bringing up this plan for you all. This is about a half-acre parcel in Centerville. It's developed with a single-family dwelling. We were before you pretty recently for some work on what we call the upper driveway area. As they started into that work and have essentially finished it already by this point, they did realize that there's also maybe some work to be done along the lower driveway. There's a low timber railroad retaining wall along the edge of that existing driveway that could also use replacement. It is outside of the 50-foot buffer to the bordering vegetated wetland off-site. And all work will be just sort of along that edge of driveway. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. Any question from the commissioner?
Yeah, I do.
Bill?
This is just a replace in kind. It's no larger footprint, right?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Any other question from the commissioner? None. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. We have two NOIs this evening. The first one is Jason Stone, proposed coastal dredging at 183 Bayshore Road, Hyannis, as shown on the Assessors Map 325, Parcel 180. And this is Roy.
Yes, good evening, everyone. This is Roy Okarowski from WS Engineering representing Mr. Stone. I guess I'm going to share my screen according to...
Yes, please.
So does that work? So what the situation is, oop, that's the wrong one. Hold on. How do I undo that? I can do that one. 1 second. I want to pick up this one. There we go. Is that, can you all see that one? Hopefully with the two views.
No. Which one you're showing us?
It's the project plans for 183.
Oh, can't see it, Tom.
No.
All right, hold on a sec.
Yeah. You may be on the other screen that you'll
Yeah. Yep, I'm just getting rid of that stuff. So hopefully screen is top sharing. Okay. And then share. Sorry about that. And then I want to share this one. Share. Here we go. So the situation is Mr. Stone has a permitted pier and a boat lift where he keeps his sport fishing boat at 183. And through the last few years, the lift has been installed and he has done everything through the commission to get the right clearances and everything under the bottom of the boat and the lift. And what has kind of happened is in the last few storms or whatever, he believes, and I can validate that with some surveys, that some sand through littoral drift has washed in there, and now his lift can only go down so far, and he can't get his boat off it at the lower tides, which he used to be able to. There's a lot of surveys that I submitted with that there used to be reported about 3.2 feet of water at the lift, and now it's approximately 2.4. I did a new survey, and I surveyed the entire area from the inlet over there and looked at a lot of Google images to try to validate what he's saying. It's hard to determine exactly, how much sand is moving, but based on the previous surveys and what I surveyed, I believe there is some buildup from littoral drift. What we're proposing to do is just it's called a skim dredging, which would involve really just a small barge with an excavator on it that would go in there. They would move the boat lift pieces, and then they would be taking, basically a foot to less than a foot of material going straight out from where the lift is to the deeper water. Some of the comments from Shellfish, et cetera, with that is not that much dredging needed. The reason I showed that dredging footprint was basically, some of the sand on the east side might flow back in, but we're probably only going to take about a third of that. So like 25 to 30 yards, even though I'm asking for 75. And that's kind of where we're at. We did shellfish surveys, and the town did shellfish surveys and found basically nothing there. A couple here and there. We proposed to take the shellfish out and put them back, but seeing how there really isn't any, that's probably off the table. We plan on getting the rest of the required permits. The sand, which is being tested, will be used either for beach nourishment if it's clean, or going to a approved disposal area. It's basically sand with some other materials in there, so we have to do the testing and get that back, and that we'd be happy to have that conditioned. Other than that, the material would be put into dumpsters on another barge and brought to the harbor and unloaded, and that's about it. And I can answer any kind of questions.
Thank you. Before I go to the commissioner, there's a couple of comment letters that I should read into the record. The first one is the DMF, and the comment that they have is, one is the time of the year restrictions should be observed to protect the sensitive life stage of horseshoe crabs and the winter flounder from dredging activity. No dredging should take place from January 15 to May 31st of any year to protect the sensitive life stage of winter flounder, and no dredging should take place from May 1st to July 31st of any year to protect the sensitive life stage of horseshoe crabs. The second comment is DMF recommends the top of the slope be no closer than 25 feet from the mean low water line. Dredging the toe of the slope near the mean low water line may result in the slumping of the intertidal habitat. The third, DMF recommends the proponent consult with the shellfish constable about relocating shellfish prior to the dredging activity and about the appropriate forms of mitigations. And I think the town shellfish biologist has some finding on this aspect. The next one is the fuel spill from the refilling of the construction's equipment. Those are impact sensitive resource area. Impacts to resource area can be avoided by prohibiting all land-based equipment from being refilled on site. If equipment is refilling on site, adequate containment and cleanup material should be required to minimize the impact. We also have a letter from NHESB letter. Under the Wetland Protection Act, the division has determined that this project, as currently proposed, will not adversely affect the actual resource area habitat of state protected rare life species. Under the MESA, the division that determined this project is currently proposed will not result in a prohibited take of state-listed rare species. Lastly, is the town shellfish biologist, Elizabeth, has sent us two pages report this afternoon. Under the additional comments, since there is no significant population of shellfish located within the proposed footprint, this proposed project will not have a significant impact on the populations. And then she has two comments. One, the construction protocol states that the shellfish will be removed and stored until after dredging and replaced in the same locations. This is actually against our regulations. This is considered a wet storage. Under Chapter 47-8-E, which is prohibited within the town of Barnstable, the contractor is not permitted to remove shellfish. This needs to be done by natural resource. Fortunately, I do not believe that there is enough shellfish located here to warrant the removal from these locations. But I would like all the outlaw be aware that this is not one of the natural resource accepted protocols. Secondly, if the dredging is allowed to occur for the purpose of the boat lifts, the opposite side of the dock does not need to be dredged too. This seems like an unnecessary large footprint for this purpose, when the goal of the project is only for the boat lifts to have more water and the boat to get out of to a lower tide. This is setting a precedent for dredging additional square footage outside of the goal of a project. I do understand the boat lift portions as to revert to the depths back to what it was when the boat lift was put in, and to prevent the current boat from scouring the bottom. Natural Resource does not currently have any issues with the dredging, the boat lift area, and a pathway to a boat to go into deeper water due to the boat probably already impacting the bottom as it is currently set up. Despite not having an existing population of shellfish, the substrate is conducive to settlement and recruitment of shellfish, and the dredging footprint should be limited to only what is needed, as to not set a precedent. If the east side of the dock is for another boat to also be there in the deeper water, this would be to address separately and be transparent to the project goal. Questions from the commissioner, Luis?
Let's see. First of all, I have this in my material from the applicant, which says proposed replacement of boat lift with ramp and float. And
That's a typo.
it's a typo? Okay.
That's a typo.
Part of that is typo. What's wrong? I mean, I'm reading this, but then I'm hearing that you need extra depth in order to operate the boat lift.
It's the cover page that the permitter saved, and it got saved back, and I apologize for that. We can amend it if you'd like, but the documentation in there is talking about our project.
Well, this is in the documentation.
It's just a cover sheet. I understand, and I just explained it.
You're saying you want to remove it.
Yeah, you can remove the cover sheet if you want, if that's the easiest way.
Well, if this goes into a file, I wouldn't think you'd want to have that part of the documentation. But all right, let's see. Dredging, improvement dredging, which I believe is what you're talking about, is a big deal. Only under really unusual circumstances do we approve that. One of the reasons is if a lot of our dock regulations are based on draft of boats, and so the size of a boat is limited by the depth of the water, because the bigger the boat, the deeper the draft, and therefore the size of the boat is limited by the depth of the water that it would be sitting in. So you could imagine that people would say, oh, just let me remove 6 inches under my dock and I can have a much larger boat. And this would be going on all over town. Plus, the dredging dramatically changes the ecology of our coastline. So it is a major kind of decision in terms of allowing improvement dredging. However, if you can show that the initial bathymetry around the dock when it was approved, and I think you should have that in your files.
It is.
It is.
Everything that you just mentioned has been documented and is in there, supplied with the previous Chapter 91s. The boat is the boat that's permitted with the signs, and none of that can change without that. So basically, and I agree with all your first statements, but what we're doing here is filing under the provision in the bylaw for dredging. It's actually not new dredging. It's dredging fill-in from littoral drift, which is what we're believing. That's why we're only taking out the minimum amount to make it compliant again, I guess is what we're trying to do.
So maybe I missed it. This is a pretty thick application. You have the bathymetry from the application, the original application for the dock?
Yes, it's in all the licenses, and there's statements in the town records from 2 previous engineers from the original dock and then the modification for the boat lift, basically showing that it's filled in to some extent. Prior to myself being involved, went from 3.2 to 2.4. And then, and remember, just some people get confused because we're in NAVD 88, not mean low water. So, but everything's documented that way. And I basically verified 2 previous engineers' surveys. And that's why I even, agreed to permit the project.
So somewhere in here, you've got the bathymetry in this application.
It's on the previous licenses and the notice of intent, the last notice of intent for the boat lift itself.
Is it in this notice of intent?
I believe the plans for the original license plans elevations are.
They were part of the filing.
Okay, all right, fine, I missed that. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, I think it should be, to me, it's pretty easy. I think this is not a new dredging in the sense of, versus where we normally say it's already been dredged, so they're allowed to redredge it. This is a case where it has in fact filled in. So it is actually being asked to just restore to its pre-existing level when it was first approved, and the lift was approved. So I think it's pretty straightforward and pretty simple, honestly. And I think the documentation was quite extensive. I was pretty impressed with how much I had to read. My question is, going out to, is there enough draft from where the boat is launched or lowered into the water from the lift? Is there enough draft going out to the first navigable channel?
Yes, there is. That's why my footprint shows it going out to the correct contour. And, based on shellfish comments, we could cut that entire footprint in half, if needed.
In which case,
or you could condition it that way. Also.
I'm sorry, Roy, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's the only place I was going is, excuse me, I have no problem with the application. My only issue was the extent of the area to be dredged.
We are going out far enough to meet.
Okay, and no further than necessary to go out to that channel, correct?
Right. It's just where we're daylighting out our cut. If you can see in the cross section, that's the easiest way.
All right, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Pete?
Yeah, I think this is a permittable dredging, and my fellow commissioners know how I am very hesitant about dredging in places that weren't before, or even for that matter, where it was dredged before. But there's a bit of an onus on this property owner. I think following our Shellfish Constable's recommendation of not having all of that dredging on the east side, which has already been agreed to by the applicant's agent, I'm cool with that, with just taking away that east side dredging. And I suspect in another 10 years, you'll have to do it again, but let's get that boat in the water. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Angela?
Thank you, Tom. Yes, my question was exactly that. How many times do we anticipate this this request being made? This is a one-time thing for this time, correct?
So the way these are permitted through the system, they'll have to be a whole nother set of permitting, 6 to 10 years down the road, something to that extent. And I don't know what the situation is with the inlet there. That I believe is the town opening that up or not? Do you know, anybody on the board? I know there was some talking of it. Because as soon as that inlet's opened up, it's going to push all that sand right back to that corner when the flow's increased. So I suspect, I wouldn't say 5 years minimum before we come back through the entire process.
But they do have to come back, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, I've sat through a few of these conversations that the commission has had on dredging docks. And I think of the one over at the mouth of the Bumps River where it enters the Centerville River. And it was a similar kind of project, and we were really not happy with the prospect of dredging. We went around in circles on that. And I'm wondering what the difference is. Is it the quality of the shellfish habitat? I just, and there was another one over near I want to say the mouth of the Katuitt Bay on the west side. And I know that I remember the commission being really concerned about the precedent that would be set by dredging. And I think those were situations where basically a dock needed dredging because sediment had moved up under it, and and made it much more shallow. So I'm a bit. I think I'd be interested to hear from another commissioner what the difference is. Is it a habitat situation? That being said, I'm not adamantly opposed to this, but I do think that we should try to make the dredge footprint as small as possible. And Liz was talking about the east side, what Pete suggested. Is it possible to reduce it more? And when we make a motion to accept this, I hope we can be fairly clear on what that footprint will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Before I go to Luis, John, do you want to say something?
Yeah, in answer to Bill's question, and I boated a lot in the Katuitt River and down the Seaview River, the Spewitt River. And Pete, you remember there was a family there at the very end as the river emptied into Katuitt Bay, and it had flushed back and flushes back the sand. You remember that, Pete? You were involved with that one. And
Yasmin is the name.
I'm sorry. Sorry again, Louise.
Are you thinking of Yasmin?
No, ma'am. This is an Egyptian. Forgive me, I should know it. God, I can't remember it, but it's right at the entrance where the Spewitt River dumps into Katuitt Bay. It
That
was
sounds about right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think you're right. I think I'm remembering that.
Yeah, golly, I can't remember the name. That's my age, I guess. Anyway, sorry about that. But several times they have come back because the sand keeps filling that in. And we keep saying, fine, I mean, his boat went from floatable to totally dry. And I remember Pete, and I pick on you a little bit because I remember you used some of your scientific background and did some studies on the hydrology of that area and said, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. I don't know if you remember that, Peter, but anyways, so Bill, I am not as concerned as precedent or saying that this is, first time dredging or whatever. I think we have done that before. That's my memory, at least. Louise, maybe you remember that one.
Well, yeah, I think it was Yasmin, Yasmine. I think it's that property.
What about the one in the Centerville River? Remember, that was just like.
Yes, that one is different in that we couldn't understand how it filled in as quickly as it did. It was a matter of a couple of years.
Yeah.
And it was like, how did this happen?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where Peter's analysis had come in on that one that I'm referring to. Because Pete, I can remember your words. Well, I've done some kind of hydraulic study based on your background or whatever. And so I can remember that particular one. It's a different name, Louise. I'm sorry, I just don't remember the name of the applicant.
Pete, do you remember?
No, I don't.
Okay. Louise?
I'm curious, what was the date, and maybe it's in the application and I miss it. What is the date of when that dock was installed and also when the davit came in? I'm just wondering, can we get a sense of how quickly it's filling in?
So I believe the davit's just a year or two old, the boat lift. And then previously, the dock was filled in. If you look at not a whole lot happened until this year. I looked all through the Google, historical Googles, and it was pretty consistent. But what you don't see is you get this big pile of material. Let me look up the license and answer your question first, man.
Yeah.
It's the original license was.
I think it's November 1st, 2005. They were stamped.
Yeah. Angela, I just read the same thing as Angela just did. It was stamped in that date, November 1, 2005.
Yeah, so that's the one. That's the first one, and then there was a more recent. More recently, the boat lift was done. And that work was done by Sullivan, I think 2 years ago.
I think I remember it coming before us, and it was well before 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We were still having meetings in town hall, so.
For the boat lift itself?
Yep.
Okay. I know there's a order of conditions, and there isn't a Chapter 91 plan that I can reference because that got somehow put through the cracks. So as soon as I get this approved, I'm actually filing a Chapter 91 for this lift. And will include the lift and the dredging to make it all compliant. The owner was not aware of that also.
Are you all set, Louise?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Pete?
Yeah, here's the reason for my fairly easy acceptance of the project in front of us with the narrowing, removing the east side of the dredge. The information, images of littoral drift that have been provided to us is a very compelling story. The applicant's agent is not trying to pull something over our eyes. It seems pretty obvious to me. And it's a very minimal dredge. You're just taking off a foot or something. So, and the fact that my shellfish biologist, my shellfish constable is okay with it. So yeah, from a science standpoint, I'm okay with this.
That's good. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pete. Let me say something, and then John or Pete or Louise can correct me if I'm wrong. it has nothing to do with the habitat in that area. It's more depending on the locations and the source of the sand that coming in, and what is the purpose of the dredging. Is it for the same boat or enlarged boat? If you are changing the boat and you're asking for a dredge, the area, then it would be all we call the improvement dredging, and that would be a difficult applications to go through. So we look at it case by case basis and the locations wise to decide on what is the best objective for approval for that. Am I answering a question?
Well summarized, Tom. Well summarized.
Thank you, Tom, and all of you.
So would we call this maintenance? Maintenance dredging?
I think what we have to say is not improvement dredging.
Right.
That's the critical element that Tom said.
Yeah. Any more questions from the commissioner? If not, I'm going to go to the public. Chenoweth, can any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None? So Roy, looking at the footprint and looking at Tom Service biologist's comment, if you cut half of the footprint, would that do for you?
That's fine. I've already stated that we can cut it down to that.
Okay. So what I want to do though is I need a revised plan showing that exactly what you want to do as far as the dredging goes. So I need a revised plan to show that area. Is that okay?
Yeah. Can you close the meeting pending a revised plan, or do you want to continue it and get it?
No, Tom, couldn't just simply do a motion that said subject to receipt of revised plan showing the downsizing of the dredged area by approximately 50% subject to staff review. And
That sounds good. Yeah.
That's what I'm going.
Okay, sorry, Tom.
Yeah.
I thought I was being helpful. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Could I have a motion?
Oh, excuse me, Tom.
Darcy?
I was just wondering, do you think it would be a good idea maybe to have a finding that stated your take on which type of dredging it was, so we have it clear and concise in the special conditions?
Can't you reference your actual regulation? Because that's the only provision for dredging that's in the regulations that I could see. Like, just in terms of making it easy for you to explain it.
Well, let me do it this way and see what John or Pete would suggest wise in terms of modify the motion or something. Well, not the motion, but the finding wise. If we need the finding is the commission is finding this location for this dredging is not for maintenance dredging purpose. It's just to provide the access to the existing boat lift area. Is it good enough, or you need more?
And I think it's fine to simply say it returns it to its pre-existing level.
Yeah.
It's not improvement dredging, it returns it to its pre-existing level.
Okay.
Yes.
Should I restate it?
It might be helpful for Kim. I don't know whether she got what John said.
Yes, please.
The commission find that this location is not a maintenance dredging. It is simply returning to the previous approved dredge depths for the boat use at the boat lift.
So
Okay, fine. Second.
Roll call.
Do you want to put the season? You have to put the
this is just a finding.
This is just a finding.
I'm sorry. Start. Okay.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
And could I have a motion to approve this project subject to receipt of a revised plan showing the 50% reductions
Roughly
the
50.
footprint area, roughly 50%, and then subject to the staff review. And also there is a time of the year restrictions from the DMF mentioning about from January 15th to July 31st.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
and Tangney. Aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck, Lloyd.
Thank you for your time.
The second LOI is Charles E. Crawley to demolish existing single-family dwelling and detach the garage and construct new single-family dwelling, detached garage / cabana, pool, and all associated appurtenances at 104 Great Bay Road, Austinville, as shown on the Assessors Map 093 Parcel 011. John?
Good evening, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting, representing the applicants. Share the plan with you all. This is just about an acre and a half of land on Little Island, abutting North Bay, that's developed with a single family dwelling and a detached garage. And as the project description stated, that we are here seeking approval to demolish those existing structures and construct a new dwelling, a new detached garage / pool cabana, and a pool. The wetland resources here are land under ocean. There is an area of salt marsh, and then we have a coastal bank, mostly a revetment. We're also in land subject to coastal storm flowage. There is nothing existing within the 50-foot buffer, and there's nothing proposed within the 50-foot buffer. We're actually pulling the dwelling landward about 20 feet. So the seaward face of the dwelling is really the landward face of the existing building. So we're increasing the separation, nothing in the 50-foot buffer, slight increase in the 100-foot buffer, for which we have provided the mitigation calculations and are enhancing that band of native plantings along the top of the seawall. I hope it's a pretty straightforward project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, John. One thing I kind of misread this morning too, there is a demarcation line with the boulder that I saw on the plan. So I just want to point that out. There is a demarcation line typically that we require that. Questions from the commissioner. John?
Thank you, Tom. Two questions, John. One is, are you replacing the septic system? Is this a septic system on this property, and are you replacing it?
Yes and yes. We're upgrading the
Have
existing...
you discussed, and again, this is something that I think Bill or Peter, anyway, George Gilmore, I know, would bring up. Is there any talk with the owner or the applicant about putting in an innovative system? And we don't have the authority, but that's certainly a strong recommendation, I believe, from all the commissioners.
I have not had any discussions yet with the applicants on it. I would tell you that in every case that we can, including this one now, we've started adding a note to our septic details to make sure that we provide separation between our tank and our D-box, so that something could be added simply, whether it's a part of this original project or something coming forward, we'll know that that opportunity is there. But we can have the discussion.
I think you'd agree, John. Certainly, if this location, size house, it would be a great opportunity to take a step forward if the applicant would consider doing that. And I would certainly push very hard to ask you to pursue that issue with them. The second question is, and this is pretty minor, I walked the property today and I noticed on the far ends by the seawall, on the far end of the left and the far end of the right, there's already a fair amount of vegetation there. There's very little vegetation on top of that seawall. So if you look at your drawing, if you took all of those plantings on the left and the right that sort of circle around and put them in the front, I think would be a far better mitigation planting plan.
Okay, I would tell you that especially on the east side, I guess, we did not, we recognize that there is need of, buffer zone there. So we did not extend that, across to the property line. We kind of ended it at, I think at where the lawn ends.
Yeah. Again, I think, we don't have a picture. I was going to take a picture, but there really is very, very scant plants. And I saw where you put your mitigation stake, by the dock steps going down. And it really is thin, John. It's just an opportunity I think, to do a little bit more effective planning in an area that needs it a little bit more. Not screaming and yelling, but that's certainly what I would like to see. That's all.
Thank you, John. Pete?
Yeah, I'd concur with Commissioner Abadili and Mr. O'Day, I'd like for you to discuss the increased function of the proposed mitigation area as to its buffering capacity, the types of plants that are there, and the level of improvement that you might think this very narrow strip is offering to the embayment in terms of absorbing nutrients running off from the lawn, et cetera.
I would be happy to talk about that. I think that the existing plantings along the top is basically a Rosa rugosa. And so we have added to that. It's about a 5-foot additional band. So it's probably about 5 or 6 feet existing. We've added about 5 feet of additional. And we did try to kind of mix up the sizing and types of plants in there. So we have some sweet ferns and Virginia roses of 3 gallons. And then we mixed in some bigger plants at bigger sizes of inkberry and arrowwoods at 5 gallons. So trying to create some diversity along that. I think that anything will serve to be better filtration in terms of the buffer zone. And I think that adding some diversity to those plants will benefit the wildlife.
Can I ask a question?
Not yet. Just a minute.
And Mr. O'Day, just sort of a quick question here, just a confirmation. This area is not being mulched, and essentially this additional buffer along with what exists there today will essentially be free to grow, vigorous, thick and vigorous. That's true?
That's true. And we did have showed demarcation all along there to ensure that that's not part of the landscape.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Judy Bowes. I'm representing the owner. I just want to ask a simple question. John, from what I'm understanding, the mitigation that's bunched up at the left and the right, they want to thicken that going across so that it isn't bunched up left and right, and the band that goes across the middle is thicker.
Right. Yes.
That is exactly what I was asking for, Jim.
Okay, I'm okay with that, John. You can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it wasn't, we didn't stack too much on the edges. I think it's about 200 square feet. So it would really bump that middle part out only a foot or two, but
we'll take it.
Better strip, we'll take it.
Yep. Thank you, Jimmy, for that. Any other question from the commissioner? None? Can wait in any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None? Do I have a motion to approve this project subject to receipt of a revised plan showing the modified mitigation area in front of the coastal bank there?
So
we talked. Roll call.
Sampu?
Aye.
Tangney, aye. Abadili?
Aye.
Foster?
Aye.
Hearn?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, James.
Very much.
We have 3 continuance. The first one is U.S. Coast Guard to remove riprap to a minimum depth below mean low water to reduce the navigational hazards at Carlisle Latch and Natural Hold area at the Nantucket Sound in Barnstable, and to remove the top of the spindle tower foundations and riprap at Southwest Rock Bacon to a minimum depth below mean low water to reduce the navigation hazard near the south coast of Barnstable in Nantucket Sound. This is a continuance from October the 1st, and the applicants has request for a continuance without testimony to November the 12th without testimony. Could I have a motion to?
Excuse me, Tom.
Yep.
Who's the quorum? I believe the quorum is only 4 commissioners.
The 4 commissioner plus Pete.
Correct.
Did he mull it in?
Yes.
Great, super.
Yeah. Could I have a motion to continue this applications to November the 12th without testimony?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
and Tangney. Aye, that's 5 of us, yes.
What was the date, Tom?
November the 12th.
Uh-oh.
The second one is Mark Casper, CB Enterprises, LLC, enhancement of coastal bank by removing of invasive selective pruning of lower and fallen branches and planting of native species. Also repair and maintenance of existing brick retaining wall and steps at 315 Main Street, Austerville, as on the Assessors Map 164, Parcel 003-001. This is a continuance from October the 1st and October the 15th. And the applicants has request for a withdrawal without prejudice. So we are done on these applications. The next one is Town of Barnstable, DBW, Engineering Divisions, removal and replacement in kind of existing damaged raised boardwalk at Calmus Beach Park, 670 Ocean Street, Hyannis, as shown on Assessors Map 324, Parcel 041. And this is a continuance from October the 15th. And it was not open. So the quorum is everyone in tonight. Matt?
Good evening, everybody. Matt Roble from DPW Engineering. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So my name is Matthew Roble. I saw you guys about 2 weeks ago or so for my previous meeting, and I appreciate you guys continuing us to this one so I could attend my Water Commission meeting. Reason I'm before you guys today is I'm presenting my project for 670 Ocean Street for the Calmus Beach boardwalk. I'll pull up my screen and share some of the images that I would have with you guys of the project site and give you a general run through of what we're proposing to do out there. So some of you may remember a couple of months ago, I came through in the month of July for an RDA application for a portion of the boardwalk, about 100 feet or so of the existing structure that we had removed, and we were looking to have a Moby mat installed as well as an ADA accessible board transition ramp off the boardwalk. What this is now an NOI application to actually replace the remaining portions of the boardwalk that still exist on site as of right now. Right now, I've got applications in with NASTA EP, and we've actually just received our file number with that department, as well as NHESP review for the rare and endangered species habitat areas. We actually, prior to this meeting, also received our letter of conditions relative to work in this area from their review of our NOI application. So the project site is, like I said, at 670 Ocean Street. The parcel itself is basically abutted by Cape Cod Bay, or sorry, not Cape Cod Bay. What is it? It's I'm trying to remember the name of the beach with Yarmouth, but we're abutted by Nantucket Sound waters to our east and our south, Hawes Avenue and Ocean Street to our west, and to the north we have a large condominium complex and a couple of single-family homes. What we're planning on doing has really to do with the boardwalk that exists between the parking area, the Calmus Beach snack concourse area, and then the entryway out into the beach area over here. The only other impacts that we'll have within this area would be for the placement of a temporary construction and demolition dumpster in the parking area, which I'll outline with a couple of other pictures in a moment. So like I said, these are the two town-owned parcels directly to our west of undeveloped land. Here we have the two residential single-family homes, and that's the large condominium complex, all of which were notified with the public notice letter. What we have for wetland resources in this area are land subject to coastal storm flowage, a couple of coastal dunes that were directly in and being encroached upon with the existing boardwalk structure, and also rare and endangered species habitat as well. The remaining portions of the boardwalk that aren't being encroached on by coastal dunes are either in their buffer zones or within area identified as coastal beach. So I have a couple of existing site pictures showing the encroachments of the existing vegetated dunes. You can kind of see that these look like they're mainly due to wind-blown sand deposits and vegetation kind of taking hold and encroaching on the existing boardwalk structure. This is looking out east towards the Nantucket Sound and Hyannis Harbor side of the site from the parking area. We also have some Rosa Rugosa encroachments that are limiting the existing walkable path of the boardwalk. This is about mid-boardwalk span, showing some of the damaged areas of the existing boardwalk and looking out at the snack concourse. And over here, we've got some more of the vegetation encroachments and dune encroachments shown as well. And here is showing the now terminal section of the boardwalk. If any of you happen to be out at site prior to the meeting, the previous boardwalk had extended about the point that my cursor is showing here, about an additional 100 feet of length of boardwalk that was removed due to it being unsafe for pedestrians leading into the summer season and during the summer season. A little bit more of the coastal dune encroachments that we're looking for some maintenance guidance on, and that we've included in the NOI submission. And a general overview of the boardwalk area looking out towards the snack concourse. And the picture that I have on the bottom will roughly show the area that we're planning on staging the construction and demolition dumpster during the time of replacement of the boardwalk. Will be in these two parking spaces back here. Last piece that I have before I jump into the plans and kind of the other remaining existing conditions are, this is the access point that we have with the parking lot that I have identified on my site plan. We look to pull back this fence section and utilize this existing path here to bring in our equipment for replacement of the boardwalk. So most of the driving force behind this project has to do with unsafe pedestrian conditions at the site. Right now, due to set coastal storm flows from winter storms occurring in the 2023 winter, a portion of the boardwalk was actually displaced and lifted off of its end position at the end of the existing boardwalk. And other sections of the existing walking surface have started to show their age, and puncture holes have started developing in the walking surface, presenting danger to the public. So part of this project is to replace the boardwalk, and with that, we look to kind of improve conditions in the wetland resource areas that the boardwalk sits in by not kind of driving pedestrian traffic into those wetland resource areas and keeping them off of them. What we're looking to do is removal and replacement of the existing boardwalk in kind with a structure of similar or matching materials, and also with no increase to the actual footprint of the existing boardwalk. So I've detailed on the site plan here that you should have received in your application package, kind of what we are looking at doing to the wetland resource areas to facilitate this. We're looking for a permission to be able to remove portions of the vegetated coastal dunes that have encroached on the existing boardwalk's walking surface. We would be looking to do this as a hand excavation to remove those deposits and minimize any wetland impacts. Our goal for the majority of this installation work is to minimize any machinery in the area to the maximum extent possible. So the only heavy equipment that we're proposing is skid steer access through that portion of the coastal beach area that I had identified. We would take out the couple of post and rail split fence slats and use that as our access path into the site. I measured out the tracks of the DPW skid steer that PJ Kelleher and the DPW Structures and Grounds Department would use for installing the boardwalk. And it's got about a 6-foot track that we would bring up and through, trying to cut the difference between the two vegetated coastal dune areas. Come out to the end of the boardwalk. This grayed out section represents the Moby Mat area that you guys had previously approved during the RDA hearing. This would not be installed, the ramp and Moby Mat, during this time period. We would come through and remove the existing boardwalk sections, bring them out to the construction demo trailer, and dispose of them from site that way. The new boardwalk sections that we're constructing, which I have a couple of details of here, typically speaking, meet the same profile and cross section of the existing boardwalk, a 5-foot wide walking surface. And we would be constructing these as 12-foot long sections off-site at DPW Structures and Grounds, and constructing it after they've been pre-assembled at the Structures and Ground facility via flatbed truck, brought to site, and using the skid steer, lay them back down using the same access path as the demolition work. The walking surface for the decking of the boardwalk includes spaces between the treads to allow infiltration of stormwater. While these would be pre-constructed and brought to site, when installed, we would take off slat sections as necessary to be able to backfill with existing native material from the removal of the existing boardwalk, infilling the subdeck area as required. Other activities that we need approval on as part of the installation of the new boardwalk and replacement of the existing boardwalk would be some minor regrading activities to create a flat walkable surface. We are not looking to remove any of the native sand from site, and would be looking to regrade this out flatly in as minimal a disturbance pattern as we can possibly achieve. We're looking to do this work outside of time periods that the coastal terns, sorry, what were the two species? The least terns and the piping plovers identified by NAGSP would be present. And we would be working within the RDA approval for the seasonal deployment of the Moby Mat, otherwise that we would be reattaching this new boardwalk to. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission members may have related to the project. And thank you very much for your time so far.
Thank you, Matt. This afternoon, we received the NAGSP letter, and it mentioned about the divisions for this project. It must be conditioned in order to avoid adversely effect to the resource area habitat of state-listed wildlife species. 310 CMR 10.37, 10.58, 4B 10.59, and must be conditioned in order to avoid a prohibited take of state-listed species, to avoid adversely effects of natural area habitat, to avoid the habitat take of the state-listed species. The condition attached in the letter. So I'll read that shortly, and I just want to read the other one is the projects will not result in adverse impact to the resource area habitat of the state list of wildlife species pertinent to the wetland protection net, and will not result in a prohibited take pertinent to the MESA. The conditions that the NHSP letter is mentioning is number one, time of the year restriction. Work associated with the boardwalk replacement project shall not be conducted during the period April 1st to August 31st. Installation of the Moby mats shall not occur during the period April 1st to August 31st unless conducted under the direct oversight of a qualified shorebird monitor as determined by the divisions, implementing a division-approved monitoring and protection plan of state-listed songbird. The second one is the authorization duration is a 5-year period. And then notice upon filling of the renewal, extension, or amendment of the order conditions, the applicant shall contact the divisions for written response regarding the impacts to the resource area habitat of state-listed wildlife. Matt, one question before I go to the commissioner is, do you need any ongoing maintenance on this project?
The only ongoing maintenance is something that I had been speaking offline with Darcy Carley and Edwin Hooks on, which would be maintaining any of these wind-blown sand deposits on the walking surface, just permission to be able to come through the DPW structures and grounds team and shovel off any encroachments that that exist now and in the future, so that we can maintain the 5-foot walkable path that we're seeking approval for.
Thank you, Matt. Pete?
Yeah, that's actually, Matt, what I was going to be talking to. I'm the vice chair over at Sandy Neck. And yeah, blowing sand, that comes right onto your walkways. I might recommend, and because you don't have nearly, I hope, the problem we have over at Sandy Neck, as you cut a little bit to get that 5-foot wide path, you got to cut into some vegetation and some accrued sand right there. So you're going to have, I suspect, about a sand edge, maybe this high. I might suggest that you put some kind of edge in there to hold that sand in there, because that vegetation is going to continue to accrete some sand. And if you have no edge on the side, on each side of that 5-foot path, it's just going to keep falling in. So that's one recommendation. The next recommendation I have is closer to the end of the boardwalk, that dune that you have right on the left-hand side of it. Yes, that is a glorious bit of vegetation. Would it be possible for you to extend the length that is coming straight from the tarmac another 5 feet, and then take that angle that goes out to the water so that, in fact, you give yourself some space between your boardwalk and this developing coastal dune area?
I see no issue with that. The only things that would potentially change with an impact like that would be, one, we wouldn't be working within the same exact footprint that currently exists right now.
Yes,
I hear the benefit of moving away from the coastal dune, protecting the resource, and otherwise kind of deviating from existing condition to protect something that's worth protecting.
That's my point. Yes.
If we keep the same orientation, trying to split the difference between the dunes and everything, my encroachment into buffer space for this vegetated coastal dune up here, more towards the beach area, maybe a little bit closer, especially during once the Moby mat's deployed.
Yeah,
So,
just angle it right. Just angle it right to give as much clearance, especially that developing little dune spot there. That's just real sweet.
Okay, I can see. So in that case, I'd need to revise the plan slightly. That would end up needing to go back over to NHESP just because it's a change in conditions that they approved. But otherwise, I feel as though we could probably do this through a continuance meeting. Or subject to me resubmitting revised plans addressing that comment.
No, I'll probably do a subject to receipt of a revised plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to staff, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to staff. And I mean, do my fellow commissioners think that's a good idea? I don't want to be pushing something that's not a good idea.
Question, Pete, that I was, because I had the exact same thought, but then I said, would relocating the boardwalk from where it's existing, would that do more damage than good?
No, it's sand right underneath
It's just
it.
sand. Yeah, that's kind of what, okay, makes sense, Pete, to me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I hear the benefit from that as well. I mean, really, the walkable, open, sandy areas are where you get most of your foot traffic anyway. So by taking that route, we're preserving more of the beach area that we really don't want walked on, and hopefully that people will stay off of.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions from the commissioner?
I do. Yeah, I have I guess we call it a comment, or an idea. I hear what Pete was saying about putting edges on it to try to keep the sand from starting to go over the boardwalk. Maybe, Matt, would you think of the maintenance asking for maybe six inches on either side of the boardwalk to be cleared out by a hand shovel instead, and so they would be able to keep those edges totally clean on the side of the boardwalk?
Well, then, Darcy, you're going to be taking a bunch of vegetation. If you take the encroachment that's happened, which stuff has already grown in, and then take an additional 6 inches, now you're cutting into a good amount of vegetation. And I hope that we try to minimize that.
I thought they were going to have to cut into it anyways to put this boardwalk in. So it'd be like, obviously they're going to have to cut into it to put the boardwalk in. Just keep it so it's open at all times. Once a year, just go along the edge with a shovel.
But Darcy and Pete, if we are asking Matt to relocate the boardwalk away from the dune, is it less cutting?
Yes, that would be less cutting, because I think what Darcy and I are talking about is the straight shot from the tarmac.
Yes. Yep.
So it's a different part. It's a different part of the boardwalk, Tom.
Okay.
So in theory, we'd potentially end up with more of a path like this.
Yes.
Forget my crude mouse drawing. But yeah, we'd be side cutting this one, and then really the only maintenance related clearings would be relative to this existing pathway through here, which we would basically end up with an entirely new set of issues running through this path. So there's really no avoiding the minor cutting needed in these areas.
No, stay on the boardwalk that you got, and I guess just make it easy enough for you to maintain that 5-foot path.
Okay. Yeah, and my thought would be, I mean, we're going to do the minor cutting work, at least in these two areas. We'll hopefully avoid this section here, but in the future, it would be hopefully either run along the edge of the boardwalk with a shovel, keeping it on the walking surface, or broom swept, say, once a week or something, depending on how we want to handle this maintenance, so that we're not causing coastal dune impacts in the future.
That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. Okay. Any other question from the commissioner? None? Channel 18, any public comment on this?
None.
None? Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to receipt of a revised plan showing the new locations of the shifted boardwalk and the and allow for the ongoing maintenance of removing boulder sand on the boardwalk?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Hearn,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Abadili,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
and Tangney. Aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck, Matt.
Thank you very much for your time today, everybody. You have a good night.
Good night. We have 4 certificates of compliance. The first one is Joan M. LeBron, SE3-5356. Second one is Patrick K. and Kimberly Piccolo Conference, SE3-5947. The third one is Elizabeth Gold, SE3-6155. The fourth one is Christopher Sanford, SE3-6093. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Sampu,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Abadili,
Aye.
and Tangney. Aye. That's unanimous.
Our next meeting is 3:00, November the 5th. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
and Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
We
Wow, John.
7:55.
7:55.